Okay, here we are on our doing inspection. It's June 5th. This is part 8, I believe, of our series. This package bee colony. And so in the last week, it's used about a third of the pail of syrup. And we'll see what we find under here as far as what the bees have done, being that we put on the second box. So let's see. This outside frame was a frame of, I had to have that. That's all I had. So in this frame here, we are making a little nectar, making a little wax on both sides there. Okay, and as we go through now, they're doing a little bit more nectar on that side, and there's a lot of nectar there that they're storing up. So I think they're working on that. I'm just going to turn this one around. Just they're not done with both sides, but they're getting after it. Okay, this frame here, there are some eggs in there, but there's a lot of nectar. Same thing here, glistening nectar. And most of these cells have eggs in them. I don't know, we'll get it real close here and just see if you can see any eggs in the bottom of those against the black foundation. So they are moving up. So now we got, let's see how we're doing on these. So here's another frame that they're pretty far along on. Same thing, a lot of nectar, glistening nectar, and we have eggs in there. Same thing there. I think there's a common theme going here. So check one more. Yep, same thing. Oh, here, look at that. We got some cap brood going on here. Got some capped honey. The white at the top of that frame is capped honey, and the yellow, capped yellow, is capped larvae. And they have put a lot of eggs and everything in this also. I don't see the queen, but so now that's another frame that's going. And we're going to count up all these frames and where we're at here. Okay, so this frame here is pretty much all nectar. They're even capping at the very top. They aren't doing anything, so now I'm going to take this frame and turn it around. And let's see, I've got 3 frames that aren't. I'm going to just pull one of these out and put it on the opposite side here, because I've got 3 frames that they aren't doing anything with over here, and then we'll just slide these other ones over. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3 frames that they've done both sides really well, and then they're just and then this is a 4th frame. They're coming along, but that'll be done in probably pretty quickly now. So let's see, they're more advanced on this one side, I think, so I'm going to turn this, I'm going to just turn it around like that. I'm not even going to look at the bottom, because they are, everything's happening on top, so we're just going to feed them again. And next week, in this colony, they may be pretty much close to being done with it, possibly. I guess I'm going to open up this box. We'll look. Free to look. And let's see here. Outside frame, take that out. And they're working on both sides of that. And we did space these out now because there's 9 frames that we're working with. And look at that. That's a whole frame of capped brood. Honey at the top, but it's all capped brood. So all of this is going to just be hatching out in the next 10 days. Now the next frame is going to, well, we're going to look. Now we have another frame. Same thing, mostly capped brood with other larvae coming. This whole frame here, all larvae. So this thing is going to be even bigger again next week. Quite a bit bigger, actually. I'm not going to go too far. We're going to be done here. This frame here, it's about equal on both sides. I'm just throwing her back in. And if you did notice, they've completely eaten the pollen patty that was on here. That's gone. I put a fresh one on last week. It's gone. Not stuck to anything. So I think I probably got to sneak out here and get a pollen patty on this. I'm going to give them a different, fill up the pail. Okay, I'm putting the new feeder. I've just topped it off, filled it up again. Figuring that with more bees in there, they'll tip that syrup a little harder. Okay, so for next week for this one, I can see them being mostly, probably mostly finished with the box. It's going to happen that fast. So in about 2 weeks, this box will go from start to being finished, or close to it by next week. And if this one, I'm going to have this one be a 2-deep colony, I'll put honey supers on it. Maybe on the next visit, if it's that far along. And then the other one we'll do a 3-deep colony, and we're just going to compare the difference and where they stand. So let's go look at the other one. Okay, well, here we are on our second colony. See, I gotta get the camera situated. Everything's sticky, that's awesome. I did pull the feeder pail off of here already and I filled it up. One thing I noticed on a couple feeder pails, that some of the holes had been plugged up. So I got a whole new pail here I brought with me just because of that. And with pail feeders like that, you do have to pay attention and look to see if those holes are getting plugged up at all, because all of a sudden you won't get any syrup in there. Okay, so this is our second package bee colony, and we'll see how they're doing today. I think this one is a little, well, we'll see before I start making opinions. Okay, so here we are working on that one. Not much happening there. Okay, there's some progress here. Well, there's eggs there. And the glistening of nectar. So we aren't going to turn that frame around, but that's getting a lot of brood in it. Okay, this one's very good. Mostly brood. Eggs and brood in this whole frame. That's awesome. The other one had a lot more nectar in it in the top box, and this has a lot more brood, which is probably better yet. Okay, same thing, mostly brood. Great. That's awesome. That is what I really want to see. That is really good. All right, so now here we got one more even. I'm very pleased with this one. This is great. Now I'm going to leave everything the way it is, and we got one more frame. They're working on all these frames. They're doing it. Even that one, they got a little bit going, so they're working on these frames. This is great. This looks really good. I'm very pleased with this one, with all the brood I see in there. So I got brood on 1, 2, 3, 4 frames. 4 frames. Brood on, let's see, brood on 5 frames. 5 frames on one side, so 4.5 frames of brood. That's very good. I'm very pleased with that. That's not to mention what they got going down below. So we're gonna pull this, we'll pull this box. Oops, upset the apple cart. Smoker's out, that's awesome. And we'll see what's happening down below. Okay, good population of bees. I need a frame in there. I neglected to bring one. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, it's 9. I'm gonna. Oh yeah, that's right. Remember last week? Evenly space them out, Jim. I didn't do that. So we'll finish that. There we go. That's a little better. And I'm just going to pull an outside frame here, see how they're doing on this one. Okay, they are drawing it out. Nothing on that side. And if we want to, we can sure turn that around just to, for no other reason but to turn it around. So this frame here, right next to it, all brood, cap brood. This one, larvae. You can see the larvae in that white new comb. So that brings us up to about 5 frames of brood in here, with the counting the top box. This frame, all cap brood. All cap brood. That's 6 frames of brood. This hive is really hitting on all cylinders. All cap brood, and you really can see how tan that's gotten compared to that white stuff earlier on the other box. So that's another frame of brood. 8, 7 or 8. I'm losing count. This one here, moving forward, all full of larvae and pollen. I gotta get some pollen out on these guys, because that pollen is gone too in this one. Just to make sure, you don't want to make sure you don't want to make them be starving for it. Look at more brood. And the next frame, more brood. So there's probably about 10 frames of brood in here right now. Great. So in another week, now it takes 10 days for that cap brood to hatch out. So, and it's been capped probably for a little while, so that is probably all going to be hatching out here in the next week. So both of these hives are going to be looking a lot different again this week, and they look how much different they look from last week. 4 more frames drawn out on the top with brood in it and nectar and everything. So next week it'll be a lot better. So they'll probably be ready for this one will be ready for its 3rd box next week, I think. And that's how we're going to play it for this one. We'll make this one a 3 deep colony. So, okay. I got a different feeder pail here, you notice. It's just easier to bring one with. Okay, so next week, we should be sum it up here. We got more brood. 4 more frames are pretty far being drawn out. They've eaten all the pollen patty this week. We have brood in all of the new frames. Queen is laying up a storm, especially in this hive here. So we anticipate then the need for another box on this one, maybe next week. It'll be very close. And honey supers to be going on the other hive. So I think that's where it stands for the week. And we'll see how it goes. So thanks for watching. See you next week. Okay, I'm going back into this hive and putting pollen patties on. You know, this time of year now, early June, you can get a dearth of pollen and no pollen is available or very little. And in a package bee colony, you don't have the numbers yet to be able to forage and make all this comb. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, to get all this, all their resources like pollen and everything and nectar that they can't draw comb. So now, if you remember last week, I put a pollen patty right on the top here, and I kind of chastised myself for doing it, but they ate it all. So now I got a whole pollen patty. I'll put a half here. You want to locate it right where the bees are, and then I'm going to put the other half, just same thing, down below. They make sure they got enough pollen to get them through. It's probably another 2 weeks before we have widespread pollen everywhere. But now, even on other colonies, they could be short of pollen right now. I had a gentleman that found out they were having the queen was laying, and they saw eggs, but they never saw any brood. What was happening, they didn't have any pollen in the hive, and the hive was cannibalizing all the brood to save on their resources. As soon as the person put pollen patties on the hive again, it started just fine. So package bee colonies, pollen on a hive all the way till June 15th, no matter what. And there's a very good example of that. Had I not given them pollen right now, they could have been cannibalizing brood and we would have been going backwards. So, at any rate, use all the resources. Don't cheap out. You cheap out, you pay the price. Put on the resources and they're going to be dynamite. There again. Thanks again. Thanks for watching. Bye. One afterthought, just because I got a little bit of card yet left on the bee yard, I did plant this all in clover for it's a deer food plot, but we're looking for clover. So the clover's coming up really good. Everything's turning green. We really need some rain, so hopefully we'll see a really nice stand hopefully in the very near future.